Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Coach Gerald Lami podcast. I'll be bringing you content with some of the best sport personalities around the world and sharing a journey with the listeners and inspiring the next generation. Without further ado, I would like to introduce my special guest for today, Zavon Hines. Welcome, Zavon. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man.
Brilliant. So if we can just get into it, if you could just tell us about your upbringing, where you grew up, etc.
Obviously, I was born in Jamaica. Came here when I was about 9 years old, and came to Brixton. I grew up in Brixton. Ever since I came to England, and that's my upbringing.
Okay, so how was that transition? Because I can relate to that as well. I came from Albania, same age as you, like 8, 9, and I remember my first time coming to England. I was thinking, this is like Disneyland to me. How was your transition from coming from Jamaica to England?
It was different, but obviously in a good way because in Jamaica there weren't much there, if you know what I mean. So it was good, and obviously it was beneficial for me as a young kid. More opportunities, education was probably better as well. I just had more options, which was good for me. But then obviously the thing that I found difficult was the integration kind of thing. So not every kid was always that nice. So especially when you got an accent or something like that. And as a kid, if other kids are making jokes of your accent, you take it quite personally and not see the banter in it. So I found that a little bit hard, but eventually I got over it because as you can hear now, the accent went. So
yeah, same. Well, I couldn't speak a word of English, boy. So I'm sure you could speak a bit. You could speak English in it, patois. So, but yeah, I understand what you're saying in terms of kids. Kids are kids, and sometimes they don't really realize the effects that it's having on others. So
no, not at all. But that's just life, you know. So that's just part of it as well. So, and I think that actually helped me to understand people as well, understand kids as well, but also understand myself a little bit growing up. So it was good.
No, interesting. So how did you get involved in football? Where did you start from? Did you start in Jamaica, or was it when you came to the UK?
I always played football, even in Jamaica, but obviously in Jamaica I was just having a little kick about with my friends and all of that kind of stuff. So I was always playing. And then when I came to England, I was still playing. And I was playing for my local team, and for the school team and all of that kind of stuff. So that was always my passion. But I never knew how seriously I really wanted it until I got a little bit older, like 14, 15 or 13, 14, around that age, where I was playing for my Saturday league team. And I just wanted to, there's a lot of kids around me that was going on trials here and there, but I never went on trial like that to any other club. So like I said, football has always been my thing, always, and I was obviously fortunate to do what I've done, kind of thing.
No, for sure. So who inspired you to play football? Was it like a specific person or player?
I always, growing up, like my dad supported Arsenal, so but basically I used to just watch football all the time, and I watched Arsenal a lot. So like Thierry Henry, Ian Wright, Dennis Bergkamp, those sort of players. Obviously Henry and Ian Wright more than anyone inspired me. I tried to base my game off them, but I think I was I was a bit different from the way they play. But they inspired me massively.
Okay, yeah, no, for sure, man. Like even myself, I remember when I first come to England. I remember just seeing Arsenal, and I was thinking, like it was Ian Wright, and I remember just watching certain clips. Like my dad just bought some videotapes of like football. I remember seeing Ian Wright, and I was thinking, like when he's scoring goals and just like the way he's celebrating, I was thinking this guy this is the guy that I want to be. Like, he's having fun with it. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's definitely someone's like a lot of people say, especially people that have come from like from inner city London areas and whatnot. They always say like Ian Wright and just what he done for the culture and just what he done as a player as well is very inspiring. So I can
And
see where yeah.
for me personally, Ian Wright, the reason why I think Ian Wright as well, because he didn't have it easy. He got into the pro game quite late, so that just showed me like his mentality, and I don't think he lost who he was, kind of thing, once he got into the game. Because when he was at Arsenal, and like you said, when he was scoring and playing, he was just always smiling. And for me, if you see a player that's enjoying their football and know why they're there, and they just love playing football, not actually just being a footballer, then for me, that touched me a lot more than the players that just want to look nice and always angry. So, like, you know, when you smile, it's infectious. So, little things like that stuck with me.
No, for sure. So you mentioned that you started taking football a bit more serious at like the age of 14. So when did you start? When did you start with West Ham? Was that your first club that you went on trial or signed for?
I went on trial for the old Wimbledon when I was in like year 7, so that was like probably 12, 13. But I weren't ready at that time. And it's like my
Why
teacher
do you
from
think that
school.
was?
I don't know. I didn't get in, so
Okay.
but I weren't there for that long, and then all of the stuff with the club happened. So I just saw that as a blessing in disguise, kind of thing. So I just continued to just enjoy football outside of academy level, and amateur, just enjoy just playing football, and I think that's what made me who I was, kind of thing. And then when obviously I signed, went on trial for West Ham quite late, like under 16s. So by that time, obviously there's a lot of these kids that's already in the academy. I've had that coaching and had that training for years. I've never had that. So even like my Sunday league team, we didn't really train as much. Like we'll have, you know, like what they do now, have a little 5-a-side for training. We didn't really get coached to how to like receive a ball and like pass and body shape and all of that kind of stuff. And we didn't get taught how to make runs in behind and all of that. I've never ever had that. So the way I played was very freestylish and off the cuff, and I just tried to express as much as possible. And because I watched a lot of football, I tried to imitate or copy certain of my idols' movements, kind of thing. So that kind of helped me. So once I, So how I got to West Ham is obviously like I was playing for my amateur team in this Watford international tournament. And then there was a professional version over the other side where Arsenal, West Ham, Watford, all these other professional clubs was playing against obviously themselves, and obviously the amateur version was which my club and other amateur club all over London came for the tournament, and we ended up going to the final. We ended up winning it, the whole tournament, and I scored like 4 goals in the final.
Okay.
And I didn't really think nothing of it. Obviously, I just enjoyed, like I said, in my mind, I just enjoyed football. And then I went home as normal. Then I got a call like the next day. I remember it was a Sunday from my manager at the time. And he just said that West Ham want to take me in on trial, kind of thing. I was like, oh, yeah, that's it, kind of thing. Because I never really expected it. I was waiting for an opportunity, obviously, but I didn't know when it was going to come or where it was going to come from, because unlike now, there's a lot of scouts everywhere. Back then, there weren't much scouts for players, kind of thing. There weren't much development centres or scouts for clubs, all of that. It was just basic referrals, kind of thing. And So yeah, I went in on the Monday, trained on the Monday. I think there's a game on the Tuesday, friendly game. It was pre-season at the time, and I played in that and I scored in that game. Then we trained again on the Thursday, Friday, and I played another game on the Saturday. I scored in that one again, and after that game, they signed me.
Okay.
So after a week of being there, I got signed. Normally, it's like a 6-week trial.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, so obviously it was good for me, and I was happy. But I knew I felt like this was my time, kind of thing. And like I used to put pressure on myself. Like the older I get, might be obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult, especially if you're not getting the coaching that everyone else is. So for me personally, obviously I knew I was good enough to be at that level, and I just had to show it. So which I did, and it's not normal to get signed after a week of a trial. They normally give you, they normally try to give you at least 2 or 3 weeks to see if it's a fluke kind of thing. So I was happy with that. And then after that, I had 6 months to get a scholar. So bearing in mind, I've never been coached. How the system worked at under 16s, back then they told you around Christmas times if they're going to give you a scholar or not. So and I signed in August. So
okay, so time wasn't on your hands really.
Nah, not at all. So I just So for me personally, I knew I the main thing about me. I enjoyed football, and I was very passionate about the game. I was a bit different. I was off the cuff. I weren't the same as everyone else. I was a bit fiery at times, which didn't come across in the best light at times. But I was fortunate to have a coach that understood me as a player and as a person, and knew what made me tick and what didn't. So I was lucky in that aspect.
You mentioned earlier in terms of obviously you was getting a bit older, and did you ever have any doubts like when you did sign for West Ham, and obviously a lot of these boys have been probably with a club since they were like 10 years old probably. Did you ever have any doubts? And like you said, you had about 6 months to get your scholar. Did you have any doubts that you would actually get it?
For me personally, there's always doubt, but for me, how I think and how I used to think is that I ain't got nothing to lose, kind of thing. Like I literally haven't got nothing to lose, so I'm just gonna try and enjoy it as much as possible, and let the doubt be a motivation for me. Because like literally, I didn't have I weren't expected to be there at that time. I signed late, and they could have just signed me for the sake of it, not actually thinking that I was going to go on to do what I was going to do, what I did. And then, so I just, I use the doubt as a motivation. Obviously, there's always a bit of doubt as a kid as well. Remember, kids, we're very vulnerable. Some of us are not as strong-minded as others. So when you hear certain things, or you see certain players getting scholars way ahead of you, or pro contract after straight away from a scholar kind of thing, you do have doubt because you're thinking, when is my turn, kind of thing. And that's just, I think that's just normal human being.
No, for sure. So, well, you definitely got your scholar, and you definitely started making some appearances in the Premier League. But before that, and during your time at West Ham, when you was coming through, who would you say just motivated you, or always just had your side of making sure that you was all right? Was there any particular coaches or players?
Coach-wise, Kevin Keane always had my back, I believe. Because when he signed me at under 16s, and then when I moved on up to like the reserves, he was my reserve coach. and when I finally got in the first team, he was one of the first team coaches. So he was there through my journey. So, and obviously there's like a lot of other players like Mark Noble, Carlton Cole, Marlon Haywood, Luis Belmonte, and a few other players that looked out for me. Anton Ferdinand was there at the time when I was coming through. He looked out for me as well. So there's quite a few that was good with, like the young players, like the 18s and the reserve players that was good with us. So we didn't really have many players that just pushed us to the side. Really, everyone kind of looked out for us because they knew that we didn't know much, so they had to look after us, kind of thing.
No, for sure. So you started. So just talk to me through, like, in terms of your Premier League debut. Like, what was that feeling like when you heard that you're going to be on a team sheet, or you're going to be playing your first game in the Premier League? Because that's everyone's dream as a boy, whoever wants to become a professional footballer, to find out they're going to be playing a Premier League match. Like, what was that like? Was you nervous or was you excited?
Yeah, of course. No. If someone tells you that they weren't nervous, or they wouldn't be nervous, then they're lying. Of course, I was nervous, but like I said, I had good coaches and I had good players around me that actually like looked after me on and off the pitch. Like even during the game, like they looked after me, kind of thing. So for me, and then how I used to think as well, I just used to think, oh, just go and do what you can. Like I said to you, I'm not. No one expected me to be there, and I've got nothing to lose. So if I have a bad game, it will take me out. That's the worst. That's the worst that can happen, literally. But then, if I have a good game, then I'll play again. So I just try to think about that. If I do good, I'll keep it simple to start with. Don't try nothing too outrageous to start with. Build your way into it, and then go from there. So yeah, I was nervous. I was more than nervous, to be fair. But
I can imagine.
But like I always thought to myself, like, I've always wanted to be here, so let's try and make the most of it.
But what about in terms, because I've spoken to a lot of players and they just say in terms of the pressures of performing every single week, like, is how do you prepare for the week in terms of coming up to the match, like mentally wise? Because obviously physically you're doing your training, but mentally, was there anything that you did to prepare yourself? Or
I think if you're having good training sessions and mentally you get confidence, you feel pumped, you feel good. But if you're not performing well in training and you're not doing the right things in and around the place, and you feel like you're not doing the right things off the pitch as well, then mentally it will have an effect on your game, and it always does. So preparation wise, I always say it's key. And as soon as you finish one game, that's when you start to prepare for the next, because that's where it starts. Like literally, like every minute and every moment counts. So for me, like there's no specific routine for me. It's just down to the individuals, kind of thing. And for me, I just try to not get distracted as much off the pitch, because a lot of things off the pitch could affect your game.
No, for sure. And was you one of those players that, because obviously you hear train the way you want to play on a game day, was you one of those players that will put in 110% during the training session?
I like to believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes it don't always go the way you want it to go, especially a training session. Sometimes, being a youngster as well, sometimes it'll feel like the training session just went by, kind of thing, because you didn't get on the ball enough, you didn't touch the ball enough, you weren't involved enough. Do you know what I mean? But when you're young, sometimes you allow it to go by, kind of thing. But the older I got, I tried to get involved. I tried to speak a lot more. And once you're a bit more vocal in the game, not in a disrespectful way, but then players show you a little bit more respect if you demand a bit more from them, whether it's for the ball or off the ball, on the ball or off the ball.
No, interesting. So you had a spell in a championship. Like how was that? Like in terms of like even like facilities and just playing with a different set of players, because obviously you're playing with Premier League players and then you're going down the step. Like, what was the difference in terms of players, or was there a difference?
For me, obviously there was a different quality-wise, but at the same time, when I signed for Burnley, they just got relegated from the Premiership, so they had like Premiership players in the squad anyway. So it was a bit different. Obviously, a lot of things was different. Obviously, location was different. Style of living was different. Obviously, the manager was different. So everyone's got different perception and all of that kind of stuff. So it was different, but the main thing was it was football. So that if it's football on the pitch anyway, it shouldn't be so different.
No, for sure, I agree with you. So I just want to ask you, who was probably like the toughest opponent that you played against? Because I'm sure you played against quite a lot of good players.
I got asked this a couple of times. I played against a few good players at the time. You know, Sylvan Distan.
Solid.
He was solid. He was very good. Joseph Yobo was good at Everton. It was them two at centre back. So them two, it was solid. But I probably think the best of all that I actually played against was Vermaelen.
Okay. Yeah.
When he was in his prime, he was just quick, composed on the ball, strong, could get up. So I just thought he was like levels. But he was very good.
You've probably been asked this as well, but who's probably the best player that you've played with?
Best player I played with. It's hard to choose one. Played with quite a few players.
You played with a lot of good players actually.
I always say that someone that people don't put a lot of respect on his name enough. It's because I trained with him day in, day out. Is Mark Noble.
I've heard his name pop up a few times. Yeah.
Technically, he's one of the best players, and for me personally, it's a disgrace that he didn't get an England call up at all. At all, it makes no sense to me. But like that's just life. But he's one of the obviously best players I played with when he was flying. Scott Parker was good. I trained with Tevez as well and Mascherano.
That must have been different levels.
Yeah, so they were good. They played in a couple reserve games with Mascherano. Who else? And then in the England 21s, my squad was quite good, to be fair. Junior Stanislas, Sturridge, Welbeck, Andy Carroll, Wilshere, Walcott, Mika Richards, Tompkins. So we had quite a good squad. Danny Rose, all of them. So I played with quite, like I said, it's hard to just choose one.
No, I can imagine.
But I played with quite a few good players, to be fair. So I'm fortunate in that aspect.
So you had I remember you had an injury as well at that time, because there was a period of time that you was really doing well in the Premier League, and then I think you had I'm not too sure what the injury exactly was, but you was out for nearly a year from what I remember. Tell us about that time, mentally, how strong do you have to be to get through all of that?
You have to be mentally strong for just to be a footballer, full stop. But it was just frustrating for me because at that time I was in a good phase. I was in a good period and I was doing well. Like I was playing for the first team and I was got called up by England 21, scored on my debut, and I was having a good time at that time. And then the injury just came out of nowhere, kind of thing. So it was frustrating, but because I was having a good time, how I thought to myself is I'll just come back, I'll just get my head down, focus on getting fit, and then come back and try to work towards to get back to that level. And the club showed that they cared, kind of thing. So they invested in and helped me get back fit. So I was happy with that. So I knew I was in a good place. It would have been different if I was out of contract and I weren't playing and then I got injured and then I didn't know where I was going to be. It would have been different. I would have been mentally struggling, but I was in a good place where the club was looking after me and the club always looked after me, to be fair.
No, that's important. It's hugely important. So if we fast forward to where you are now, like I know you're doing a bit of coaching at the West Ham Academy. Like, what made you get into coaching?
It's a funny one as well because when I was playing, I was like, I never want to be a coach. That it's not for me at all, man. Even up until I recently retired, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, nah, coaching is not for me. And then when I retired, I spoke to Jack Collison, one of my good friends, because he had to retire early as well. So I spoke to him, and he was the under 18s coach at West Ham at the time. So then he just said to me, just come in and just be around and see if you like it, just see what the place is like anyway, see if you like just being around football kind of thing. So I went in and obviously they were putting on a session, so I didn't get involved, but I was helping him out kind of thing with the other coaches and just met everyone else and just spoke to everyone else and I just liked the feeling that I got kind of thing. So I went in a few more times and then I just said, cool, that's something I actually like it. So, but I always, one of my main things as well, like I've always wanted to be able to help young players and help young kids in general, mentally, physically, and just with their footballing journey kind of thing. So that was the next best thing kind of thing. So I decided, I need to see what badges, because I thought I'd done my level 2, but I didn't get signed off when I was younger, so I had to redo it again. So I had the opportunity to do it with the scholars at West Ham. So I done that, and then I jumped straight onto the B a couple months later. So I done the B license. So now I'm obviously at West Ham for this season, my first season.
How's that been?
It was going well, because there's a few things I had to learn about myself, and I'm still in like a transition learning kind of phase. So I'm still learning about myself. I'm still learning about the players. I'm still learning about how to treat people and understanding how to make them better. But I'm fortunate to be at the club as well because I'm around experienced coaches, but then I'm also around former players as well. That's coaches. So I'm in a good position to learn, and we have a lot of things that helps coaches get better, makes coaches think about different things. And I'm a firm believer of if the coach is learning and improving himself, then the players will improve, because in my eyes, the players don't know much, but the coaches is who gives orders, and if they're given the right information and they're doing the right things and creating the right culture, then it's only going to be beneficial for the kids.
No, for sure, I agree with you. But do you see yourself like in the next 5-10 years, or do you see like coaching being part of your journey on a long term?
Yeah, coaching will be my thing.
Okay.
It will be my thing. I just right now, like I said, I'm in a phase of still learning. I'm still pushing. I'm still trying to understand how to be better as a person, because it will get challenging. And also, what I want to do is understand. What I'm trying to do is to understand why I want to be a coach. And because I know once I understand why completely, I know that there'll be hard times during the process of becoming like a top coach, but then the hard times won't last because I will I will need to look back at the why. The why is always the end goal, kind of thing for me. So if I understand the why, in between where there's the hard times, I'll be able to overcome it and continue to push to accomplish the why.
No, for sure. But even like if from just speaking to you now, like in terms of like your mindset from before, I'm sure you'll be able to transfer that into your coaching in terms of like setbacks in coaching. Because like you said, there's 100% going to be setbacks in coaching. But just hearing what you're saying is, for sure you're going to be able to transfer that over. And also for the young players to have someone like you that has been through the system, and probably obviously you came in a bit later, but still you was able to break into the first team, because ultimately that's the end goal for most of the young players that are coming through. So just to have someone there that's been there, that's done it, for sure it's a learning curve for them. I'm sure they look up to you as well, which that's the main thing. That's the main thing there.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
for any players that that basically have gone through what you've been through, is there any advice that you would give to them?
There's a lot of advice. One of my main one is, like I just said to you, understand why you want to be a footballer, why you want to become a footballer. Because I think the why in everything is probably one of the most important things, because it's the why is the end goal. So if you set targets, if you to accomplish the target or to accomplish the goal, you know during the process there will be hard times. But then if you have a vision and you know the why, then you overcome the hard times. You'll push past it. You'll find something within to push past it to actually get to what you actually want. So understand why you want to become a footballer. But first of all, you got to love practicing. My thing is, people love the fact of being a footballer, or love the fact of wanting to play matches, and love the fact of taking players on. But if you haven't got the passion or you love practicing, then you won't get better. You won't get what you want. You got to love wanting to train, wanting to get better. Have a passion for that, because that's, for me, that's the most important thing. If you have the passion for practice, honestly, it will be so infectious and everyone will see, and then you'll get more opportunities.
No, for sure, for sure. Just last little bit, because with all that's happening at the moment, I'm not well, you probably have, but with the players, with the Premier League players, in terms of they've been asked to take pay cuts and things like that. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people think because certain players are getting a certain amount of money, they should be taking pay cuts.
It's a difficult one, because not every player is on the same as others. So there's some in a team. One player might be on 90,000, another player might be on 20,000. So then for them to ask both of them to have the same pay cut, it might not be fair. So, like what the players have done now, where they donate money into a pot for a specific for the NHS, then I think things like that is very impressive. But when you ask them to take a pay cut, and then where's that 30% going? I think a lot of players will be against it, but then they don't feel that they have to. They should have to take a pay cut, considering the club is a big organisation. Depending on what club it is, it's a big organisation. They have backup funding. They have backup money for a crisis. So there's no company that will just leave everything on the line without having a backup. No company, unless I can't imagine there'd be any. Can't imagine it anyway. So I think the players should contribute, but only they. I don't think it should be pressured. I don't think there should be any pressure, because at the end of the day, they have worked hard. And being a former player myself, like, you put your body through a lot. So for then pressure to be put on them to take a pay cut for this sort of reason, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I don't think.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, because I mean, at the end of the day, sorry to cut you off, but like, even things, because you would know better yourself anyway. You've been in the system, but say for instance, like a young player, like for yourself, that you just came up into the game, and then you've had one good season, or you just started making some good money, then all of a sudden this kicks in and they expect you to take a pay cut. Like, it's impossible, because you're starting to cater for other family members and people around you, etc., things like that. And just because people think that you're making whatever 20 grand a week or 30 grand a week, but your lifestyle's different to the normal human being.
But then
Do you know what I mean?
also the tax that normally those players get is 40%, so they're not seeing all of that, and I just think it's unfair that if players are getting forced to take pay cuts, they shouldn't get forced to do it. They should, if they want to do it, then they do it because that's just them, out of the kindness of their heart, kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they've worked hard for it. They've agreed a contract, and because something happened, doesn't mean that they should get forced to do it.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Bro, listen, Zavon, thank you very much, man. I know I said half an hour, but I've gone a bit over the time now. But I appreciate taking your time and just sharing your journey with everyone. For everyone that's listening as well, where can they hit you up in terms of socials?
I'm on obviously Instagram, Zavon Hines 27. I think my Twitter is Zavon official or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'm on Twitter as well.
We'll put it in the description anyway.
Yeah. So any advice, any help that anyone needs, I'm always here to talk. I like talking, so yeah.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks, bro, man. Thanks again, and I wish you the best of luck with everything that you're doing, and yeah, hopefully we'll meet up soon.
Top man. Speak to you in a bit.